If there's one thing we all love, it's secrets. And boy, oh boy, are your everyday items harboring some spectacular secrets right under your nose. From mystery truck wheels to the crazy truth about Apple's titanium iPhones, prepare to have your mind blown as we dive into episode 10 of Amazing Secrets Hidden in Everyday Things. Let's go! Truck tricks. Have you ever seen a truck driving along with a few tires hovering above the road? You might think they're just spares, and in a way they are, but not for replacing flats. You see, these wheels help distribute weight when the truck is carrying a heavy load. They're attached to special axles, called tag axles or lift axles, which truck drivers can lower when needed. For lighter loads, drivers lift these extra axles to improve maneuverability and also save money on tolls, which can be affected by the number of axles in use on a vehicle. The number of axles also determines how much weight a truck can legally carry. And because more axles in use usually means more weight in the truck and hence more wear and tear to the road, that's the reason toll fees are higher. So basically, if you want to save some cash as a truck driver, learn to drive on one wheel. Foolproof. Cereal secrets. When it comes to food products, you'd like to think there's truth in the name, but that's not always the case. Take Honey Nut Cheerios, one of the most beloved cereals of all time. Would you believe there's not a single real nut in it? That's right. Despite literally being in the name, there are absolutely no nuts. When they first hit the shelves in 1979, Honey Nut Cheerios contained ground almonds. However, in 2006, General Mills subtly changed the recipe, replacing real nuts with a natural almond flavor. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. Shockingly, this almond flavor actually comes from peach and apricot pits, which contain benzaldehyde, the chemical responsible for the slightly bitter taste of almonds. While removing nuts from a widely loved cereal might seem beneficial to nut-allergic potential customers, General Mills likely did it to cut costs rather than out of kindness or concern for those with allergies. You see, these apricot and peach pits are considered a waste product when those fruits get processed, so are much cheaper to acquire than real ground almonds. Not only that, but peaches and apricots are actually close relatives of almonds and can trigger reactions in those with more severe nut allergies. So if you're allergic to nuts, it's still unwise to try Honey Nut Cheerios, despite their nutless recipe. But General Mills aren't the only cereal deceivers out there. Remember when you were a kid and you used to try and get as many of your favorite flavor Fruit Loops out of the box as possible? Well, you might want to skip breakfast this morning because I have some seriously childhood-altering news to share with you. As we all know, Fruit Loops feature a mix of red, orange, yellow, green, purple, and sometimes blue hoops depending on where you buy them. You might have even sampled each color individually, convinced they tasted different. However, it turns out every loop tastes exactly the same regardless of color, and it's always been that way. Since their creation in 1963, every loop has been coated with the same singular tropical fruit flavor with a simple dash of food coloring for each different colored loop to fool us into thinking they each have an individually unique taste. So all that effort spent during childhood carefully fishing out your favorite colors? A complete waste of time. Curse you, Toucan Sam! I trusted you! Pump up the quiet. If you're a regular driver, you've probably noticed that many newer gas station pumps have small screens that play obnoxiously loud, annoying ads.
Wash your car every day, anytime, for one low price.
GSTV's grating cheddar news.
Hello everyone, this is Cheddar News.
Or even worse, the increasing number of presidential campaign promotions.
Partnered with Gas Station TV to celebrate my presidential campaign. For a limited time, when you order a meatball sub inside, you'll also receive a free "I'm voting for Ron DeSantis and I eat at the gas station" t-shirt. So if you're a true American patriot who likes to chow down on road meat, please buy my meatballs, wear my shirt, and help me defeat the woke mind virus.
Okay, admittedly, that last one's a humorous deepfake created by TikToker Luke Strickler, but the real ads are still annoying as hell. Fortunately, there's a little-known way to silence these ads once and for all and enjoy the quieter pre-ad refueling experience of yore. Here's how. Most gas pumps with these TVs have 4 buttons on each side. The second button down on the right side is the one you need. Next time you're subjected to the siren blare of a gas pump ad, press this button firmly and hey, presto, ad's muted. While this secret button is the most common way to mute a gas pump, the method may vary depending on the pump manufacturer. Another less common button to try is the bottom right button, while some touchscreen versions include menus that may contain options to adjust the volume. If you're lucky, you might even end up at a gas station where employees have labeled mute buttons themselves. The only question left is, what do the other buttons do? Let me know in the comments below if you happen to know. Measured mysteries. The Humble measuring tape is a staple of all home improvement projects, but if you look closely, you'll notice a collection of mysterious markings beyond the inches and centimeters you've probably never paid attention to before. For one thing, you may spot an encircled Roman numeral which refers to what's known as the accuracy class of that particular measuring tape. Before rolling out to retail, some measuring tapes are subject to an accuracy test that sorts them into one of 3 classifications based on their margin of error. Class 1 tapes provide the highest level of accuracy with the lowest margin for error and are most often used in high-precision tasks like scientific research and civil engineering. And for this reason, they typically cost the most. Class 2 measuring tapes are the most commonly available with a moderate level of accuracy that makes them ideal for a variety of everyday tasks, including DIY and home improvement projects. With the highest margin for error out of the 3, Class 3 measuring tapes are most suitable for tasks that don't require ultra-precise measurements like large-scale landscaping or surveying. If your tape doesn't have a Roman numeral on it, this may mean it hasn't been tested for accuracy, which may not matter if you're not in need of highly precise measurements, like if you're measuring your height to write in your Tinder bio. Don't worry guys, I won't tell them that your 6-foot-tall measurement is off by a foot. A symbol more commonly seen on measuring tapes in the US and Canada are these ominous-looking black diamonds. Also known as truss marks, these diamonds appear at regular intervals to help construction workers achieve even placement for important structural supports like wall studs or roof truss rafters. Typically, these marks are spaced either 16 inches or 19.2 inches apart, 2 industry-approved spacing measurements commonly used to ensure a building's structural integrity. Forget girls, turns out diamonds are actually a builder's best friend. Paddle power. Ever wondered why table tennis paddles always seem to have one red side and one black side? Well, this isn't just for style. It's all specially designed to ensure fair play. Ping pong paddles are covered on each side with rubbers that cause the ball to react differently when hit. Often, the 2 different rubbers on each side of a standard paddle are for 2 types of play: offensive and defensive. So in line with traditional play tactics, standard paddles often feature a red side designed to be best for offensive play with faster rubbers and a black side for defensive play with slower rubbers. Generally, the speed of the rubbers depends on their sponge thickness and hardness. Harder and thicker rubbers produce faster shots, and softer, thinner rubbers produce slower, more controlled shots. Historically, professional table tennis players could use different types of rubber on each side of their paddles, with both sides being the same color. This allowed players to switch rubbers mid-game, making it difficult for opponents to keep track of which side was being used and how the ball would react. It was like playing against a magician who kept changing tricks, frustrating and unfair. The story goes that a Chinese player, Cai Zhenhua, was so good at flipping his paddle with the same colored sides that his opponents felt constantly deceived. He was a master at mixing up his shots, making it almost impossible to predict his next move. So in 1985, the International Table Tennis Federation stepped in and mandated that on competitive paddles, one side must be red and the other black. This way, opponents could clearly see which side of the paddle was being used and better anticipate the ball's behavior, making the game fairer and more enjoyable. In 2021, the ITTF approved 4 additional colors for players to use on their paddles: blue, green, pink, and purple, available in various shades. One side of the paddle still has to be black though to ensure colorblind players can easily differentiate. While the contrasting color combinations are specially designed to ensure fair play, there are still ways for players to use the colors to their advantage. To get around the restrictive color rules, players will often match their rubber colors to the color of their kit so the contrast is less clear during play, allowing them to potentially confuse their opponent. Who'd have thought just so much thought went into such a seemingly small piece of sports equipment? Wasabi. If you've ever eaten sushi, chances are you've tried that spicy green paste people call wasabi. But what you probably don't know is regardless of how many times you've had sushi, in reality you've probably never tasted real wasabi at all. In fact, as much as 99% of wasabi sold in the United States is completely fake, and even in Japan itself it's reported that just 5% of wasabi consumed there is the real deal. So what gives? True Japanese wasabi, or Wasabia japonica, is extremely difficult to cultivate because their growing needs are so specific. Endemic along the humid but shady Japanese mountain stream beds, the wasabi plant requires a continual supply of clean, cool water, as well as a constant temperature ranging between 45 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. On top of that, wasabi is not a fan of crowds, and when planted en masse, the plant can easily succumb to infectious disease and pests. Because of how tricky it is to grow successfully, alongside the fact that it can take years to reach maturity, legit wasabi is extraordinarily expensive, fetching a whopping $160 per 2.2 pounds of the stuff. So what the heck are we eating? Well, that light green paste in your box of sushi is most likely a mix of European horseradish and mustard, which collectively tastes similar to wasabi alongside a dash of food coloring. Talk about a spicy secret. Excuse me, horseradish went down the wrong hole. Pencil pushing. Along with the yellow school bus and red apple, the yellow pencil has become an iconic symbol of early education. But have you ever stopped to ask the question, why yellow? Originally, pencils were made of small rods of plumbago, a form of graphite encased in hollowed-out wooden strips. Pencils were originally painted to help mask the low quality of their wood, with only those touting the fanciest wood going unvarnished. But in 1889, an Austro-Hungarian company called Koh-i-Noor Hardtmuth unveiled a new luxury pencil named after the largest diamond of the time, the Koh-i-Noor. To market this common tool as luxurious, they painted it the bright yellow hue we recognize today. Some sources say the color yellow was chosen to represent the black and yellow Austria-Hungary flag in use at the time, while others say the color choice was more of an international statement. During the 1800s, the best graphite in the world came from China, and yellow symbolized royalty and status there too. It's thought that by painting their pencils bright yellow, Koh-i-Noor Hardtmuth were cementing their pencils' association with the best in the world. And it worked. The pencil industry took note, and soon every manufacturer was opting for a yellow paint job to mimic Koh-i-Noor's marketing success. Even today, it's thought that yellow-painted pencils make up around 2/3 of pencil sales in the US. Now that takes the term pencil pushing to a whole new level. Freshener falsehoods. Whether you're a driver or not, chances are you're familiar with Little Tree's car air fresheners, as well as their potent scents. Little Trees come packaged in these little plastic pouches. While you might assume the sole purpose of this plastic sheath is to keep the tree's scent intact before purchase, it's actually designed to play a role during use too. If you've used one before, you'll know that once entirely out of its packaging, the scent of Little Tree's air fresheners can be overwhelming to say the least, and fill your car with a headachy aroma before quickly fading away. But if you take a look at the directions for use, you'll see that you're not supposed to take the trees out of their packaging at all. Well, not at first. Little Trees are designed to be hung while still inside the bag and gradually exposed inch by inch, slowly releasing its scent week by week. By gradually pulling the air freshener out of its bag, you can control the scent intensity and enjoy a more subtle fragrance for longer. Talk about a tremendous hack. I'll see myself out. Apple anomalies. We all have that one friend who's a die-hard Apple fan, always raving about how much better their flashy new iPhone is compared to the last one. So when the iPhone 15 was released in 2023, there were the usual claims about camera improvements and better screen graphics, but the big buzz was about how much lighter the new phone felt. One standout feature of the iPhone 15 Pro was its use of titanium around the edges instead of the stainless steel used in previous models. This change made the iPhone 15 Pro weigh 6.6 ounces, down from the iPhone 14 Pro's 7.2 ounces. Sure, a difference of just under an ounce is impressive from an engineering perspective, but it's only about 9% lighter, around the same as a AA battery. So why did everyone think the new iPhone 15 Pro felt massively lighter? The core secret to this illusion in weight lies in a little piece of physics called the moment of inertia, or angular mass. Basically, this measures how much effort it takes to twist or turn an object. If most of the weight is near the center of an object, it's easier to spin. But if the weight is on the edges, it takes more effort to move. Since the iPhone's frame is around the edge, switching the material here to a lighter material significantly reduces the effort needed to maneuver it, even if the overall weight change isn't huge. While the overall weight loss from the iPhone 14 Pro to the 15 Pro is 9%, the moment of inertia has reduced by around 15% on the longer side. So Apple's use of titanium means you'll really feel the difference when you're flipping your phone between landscape and portrait, creating the illusion the phone is a lot lighter than it actually is. But hey, whether it's a placebo effect or not, I'll take anything that makes those marathon TikTok and YouTube sessions just that little less stressful on my delicate wrists. Speaking of design secrets Apple has been hiding in plain sight, if you're a MacBook user, take a second to check out your charger. On some older models, Apple used to include these two nifty flaps that extend out to help users with neater cable management. While it's unclear exactly why Apple decided to clip their own wings like this, some theorize the feature inadvertently encouraged users to wrap their cables too tightly, causing stress and damage to the charger's performance. Or if you're like me, you spent too much time fiddling with them and they fell off. Hey, don't blame me, they're just so fun. Cup cons. If you're one of the 63% of Americans that start their day with a hot steaming cup of joe, be prepared for a shock. In the US, we churn through just around 130 billion single-use cups every year. Takeout coffee cups used to be almost exclusively styrofoam and plastic, but those are hard to recycle and mostly end up in landfills. And while the general switch to paper disposable cups over plastic in recent years seems like an obvious win, it's a little more complicated than it seems. Turns out calling paper cups paper is a little misleading. Fully paper cups have a tendency to leak, so many commercially produced paper cups are made using pulped wood chips that have been bleached and then lined with a thin polyethylene plastic layer. But here's the problem. Even that tiny bit of plastic, less than 5% of the cup, makes recycling tricky. When paper cups are recycled, the plastic inside them breaks into flakes and can clog the machinery at recycling centers or melt under the heat, which ruins the quality of the recycled paper. So while paper cups can sometimes be recycled via specialized coffee cup recycling bins, putting them in your general recycling can render the whole load unrecyclable. These days, companies are looking for better coatings to make single-use cups more environmentally friendly. One popular choice are cups made with natural renewable materials in their linings like polylactic acid, a corn-based bioplastic that can withstand the heat of a hot drink. For now, though, it seems the journey to a truly green cup of joe with widespread usage is still growing. Strapped for information. Whether you're into fashion or not, you've probably seen jackets with these little flat straps on the shoulders. Maybe you even own one yourself. If you're like me, you probably thought those straps were purely decorative. but in fact they serve an actual useful purpose. Turns out these straps can help keep your bag in place on your shoulder, saving you from constant readjustments and protecting you from would-be thieves. While this might seem like a new trick to younger generations, these shoulder straps have always been practical. Known as epaulets, they were originally designed to keep sashes and ornamental pieces in place on army uniforms, showing off a soldier's military rank as well as the securing of satchels. So what started as a functional part of military attire has evolved into a handy internet fashion hack. Oh, how times change. Climbing Confidential. If you've ever taken on a home improvement project, you'll know how full your hands can get when you're atop your ladder struggling to juggle paintbrushes, hammers, nails, the business. But did you know there's actually a whole team of secret little helpers right under your nose? Many stepladders have some assortment of holes in their tops, and they're there for your convenience. These holes are specially designed to help keep your screwdrivers, hand drills, and other tools right where you need them, as demonstrated here by TikTok user JM Gator. This means you don't have to keep climbing up and down to grab your stuff all the time during a project. Plus, it helps keep everything tidy and safe so your tools don't fall off and cause a mess or a danger to anyone below. So next time you crack out your stepladder for some home improvements, check out what handy holes you've got at your disposal. Ponytails. At first glance, this plastic pony with a beautiful blonde tail looks like any other you'd find in a child's toy collection. But once you open it up, things take a turn for the worse. That's right, this pony's tail is actually attached to the head of a decapitated doll. But how in the flying ponytail flippery did this get there? Well, the first clue is that this maimed little pony seems to have been made in China. A lot of cheap plastic products made in China recycle old merchandise to save costs, which sometimes includes using old broken toy parts. As a result, we get bizarre hybrid products like rope cores made from diapers, dice inside chess pieces, and even dice inside dice. While you might be thinking the recycling of disused products is a positive step towards sustainability, there are some ethical concerns. Without properly processing and cleaning these waste materials, these hybrid products could pose health risks, reduce product quality, and, because these inclusions are rarely declared, undermine consumer trust. Unsurprisingly, no manufacturers seem to have ever made a statement about these kind of discoveries. So if your China-made basketball splits open revealing a soccer ball inside, and a softball inside that, and a tennis ball inside that, and a golf ball inside that, don't be too surprised. Secret sparks. We can all appreciate an invention that solves a real problem, like those long-necked, multi-purpose Bic lighters designed to reach tricky spots. However, the truth about what's inside might surprise you. Inside each multi-purpose Bic lighter, there's what looks to be a second regular-sized lighter connected to a trigger. Instead, it houses a butane tank that holds the gas needed for ignition, similar in appearance to those seen on regular lighters. In fact, it seems that this tank is a regular Bic lighter with its non-essential external parts stripped off around the top and functions exactly the same. Seeing as Bic makes all this fiery stuff anyway, seeing them cleverly reuse their common products inside their more specialized products is worthy of praise if you ask me. Put your lighters in the air. Outwitting oranges. When you think of fruit and veg, you're probably picturing the rainbow-hued produce section of your local grocery store. However, it might surprise you to find out that one of our 5-a-day's flawless coloration has less to do with nature and a little more to do with a colorful twist of nurture. Many of the oranges we see piled in perfect pyramids in the produce section are actually not orange at all, and only appear so thanks to a sly bit of tinkering that takes place before they hit the shelves. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, it's a common practice for distributors to artificially color the skins of oranges to make them more orange. But why? Well, in reality, oranges don't all grow into the fluorescent juice balls we know them as. Often, despite being fully ripe on the inside, orange peels are very uneven in color, ranging from the bright orange we know through to yellow and even green. You see, oranges contain chlorophyll, a green pigmented chemical which they use during photosynthesis, and the amount of chlorophyll in an orange's skin is directly related to the amount and intensity of sunlight an orange is exposed to. In particularly hot climates, they'll produce excess chlorophyll as sun protection, allowing them to redistribute sunlight's energy to avoid sun damage and dehydration, and causing the orange to become a shade of green. The green fades at different rates, again, depending on temperature and storage, so to achieve that consistent, mouth-watering fluorescent hue we're all familiar with, some are treated with artificial dye before being carted off to grocery stores. Known as Citrus Red No. 2, this food-safe dye was specifically formulated to color orange peels. After being harvested and transported to packing centers, oranges without the desired Fanta hue are dipped and sprayed, but it's only the peels that get the dye job. Think of it as a quick spray tanning session. While retailers aren't legally required to individually label artificially colored oranges in store, they are required to clearly label the bulk boxes they're packed in plain view of customers. In the US, not all oranges are dyed, and the Citrus Red No. 2 chemical is actually banned in California and Arizona due to suspicions it might be linked to certain forms of cancer. The chemical is mainly used in Florida, which could explain the bizarre actions of all those oh-so-strange Florida men. It's those orange chemicals! But in all seriousness, this fruit fooling, alongside the fact that apples are sometimes coated in edible wax to prolong their shelf life, does highlight how industrial food systems have subtly manipulated our expectations and perceptions on how our food should appear, and that's a bitter fruit to swallow. Thanks everyone for tuning in to 10 episodes of this series. Whoop whoop, we love making it. But hey, do you know of any everyday secrets we've missed so far? Let me know down in those comments below so we can keep this ball rolling. Peace out.